So hopefully everyone online can now also see the new interface of Archivesport Europe. The people on site were a little bit in an advantage because they were also already seeing it behind me on the big screen. This is the homepage, and I will want to start taking you through the homepage because that is one of the places where we have significant changes to what is currently on the website, and everyone who has been using Archivesport Europe will know what I'm speaking about. So the very top is still relatively similar to what we had, apart of course from the great layout and design changes that we have implemented. But it starts with a search, with kind of the main point of Archivesport Europe, granting access to 600,000 archival collections from all around the continent. But there's more now to see on this homepage. So when we scroll down, we have our highlights and topic sections, and you can access kind of specifically mentioned highlights or topics via this directly from the homepage. So this will usually be kind of new highlights that have been published or topics that are current because there's an anniversary coming up. So this will change every now and then. And we'll show you new things to explore every few weeks. We also have the access point to our research tools back on here. This is also a new feature that we have integrated in the new portal. So this gives our users some more information about what they can do on the portal. It also gives them a little bit of a background with regards to what to expect, because even though we have increased our content throughout the past 2 years, step by step, there are still a few gaps that we want to close, and that might be something that not every user is aware of. So we're also navigating that fact a little bit with the kind of contextual information and help that we are offering. Scrolling down further, we will have sections specifically for countries. So that is something that our country managers that were already mentioned earlier as our great help can use for promoting events or promoting highlights, blog posts that are specific to their country. So this will change depending on from where you access Archivesport Europe. So as we are accessing it now from Paris, we are seeing the information about France. And I apologize that the images are currently not showing up. There seems to be some issue with the connection on the image files at the moment. But if I were to access this from where I live, from Germany, I would see possibly different examples like highlighted here. Further down, we also have a call for action, which we have included so that people know what they can actually do in Archivesport Europe, with Archivesport Europe, more than just searching the content that we have. So users find the information here, how they can register to the portal, what they can get by registering to the portal. We have information about what to do when you want to join as a content provider. And we also have information of what it means to be a country manager, as that is a very significant role in the context of Archivesport Europe. Further down, we have our blog posts. So these are kind of the most recent blog posts that we have. There might also every now and then be an event in the mix. So anything that is upcoming will be highlighted here so that people in around the archival and cultural heritage domain have a possibility to stay up to date. And then further down at the very bottom, we get the access point to learn more about the people behind the network and behind the portal. And everyone here in the room recognizes that this actually is a picture from yesterday evening when we were at the city center side of the Archiv National and had this kind of great experience of seeing both sites and buildings directly in context with each other, and the extreme difference that we have with the very modern building here in Pierrefitte where we are and the very classic building in the city center. going a little bit into some of these sections that I just explained and showing you a little bit around. I'm scrolling up again, and I want to start with the topics actually. So at the moment you are seeing the highlights. And that is something that we already had in the old interface. So we had highlights probably every month, more or less, specific documents presented by our content providers and the story of those documents along with it. And we are, of course, keeping this, and we are also enriching this functionality with what we have started more recently, so to say, kind of online exhibitions based on a certain theme that you will also find on our social media channels. But the change that we have done is specifically in the topics. And the topics are essentially a possibility for us to provide users an access point based on a theme, based on a subject, into the documents that archival Europe holds. So you don't have to kind of go in there and try your luck by keyword searches. We want to offer the possibility to actually access content from different collections, from different institutions, based on a subject. And in the old portal, we had this functionality already, but it mainly consisted of the word cloud. So the different topic terms would show in a word cloud on the homepage, and from there you could access the different topics, which essentially only meant that you started a search for this topic. In the new interface, we now have the possibility to tell people a little bit more what this topic actually means. So we have a short introduction text, and we also have a possibility to show a picture, which is behind this link, and unfortunately, again, it doesn't show up. So I'm just going to try a different topic, maybe just to show you that, because when you scroll down here, we can also see other topics and other highlights, because that's the explore section that combines both of them. And let's have a look at maybe agriculture to see how this looks like with the picture. There we are. So we have a little bit of a visual impact also with regard to what the topic stands for. Another thing that is new and that I want to show you on this example, but which you will find in other parts of the portal as well, is this section up here. So beneath the title, you see possibilities to bookmark a page. This is something that is specifically a functionality for our registered users. So they have their own user account area, which we'll have a look at later on. And there they can access special content that they have found while doing their search, or can kind of save for themselves a topic or a highlight that is of interest. They can contact the institution. So if they have a question or if they want to order something, they can share on different channels. They can create a download or a print of this page. But the new thing is that they can also make a suggestion. So we want archival Europe to become more interactive, and we want people to kind of have a possibility to engage with us and with our content providers in various ways, just apart from sending a contact email. And so these are different possibilities how they can do that. One is based on the topics that I just talked about. So when someone has done a search on a specific research term that they are currently looking at, and they find a document that is not connected to a topic yet, they can suggest that this should be assigned to this topic. So this would be then kind of sent back to us, and we would provide that information to the content provider, so to the institution that holds the material, and then they can have a look at it and they can confirm and possibly include the information into the data so that it will be available for other users afterwards. Similarly, specifically maybe for textual documents, users can suggest the translation. So if we have someone who's working on a very kind of niche language, maybe, that not everyone would be able to understand, they could offer us a translation, and we could then surface that on the user interface to make it available to others. So making Archives Portal Europe again a little bit more multilingual and more accessible. The third option is to connect a resource that we have in Archives Portal Europe to another resource. So that could be a Wikipedia article, it could be maybe an academic paper that someone wrote based on archival descriptions. And there could be different resources that people want to link to, and we can again kind of make use of that for other users as well. And the last one, other, is, so to say, anything else that people might want to suggest to us, which also could include things like someone was in the reading room, did take pictures, has found that the document doesn't show with digitized material at the moment in Archives Portal Europe, and so they might want to offer us the pictures that they've taken. So that is just an example for this. And you can also see, so I'm currently logged into my user account, and that is why my name, or the name that I'm using for the account, and the email address are already filled in here. So that's kind of the special service for registered users, that they don't have to type that much. And then I can put down here my suggestion and write my notice. So I'm just going to close this again, and then we're going to have a look at a few of the other sections that have changed. The next section that I want to look at is the About Us section. And as you would imagine, it starts with about the portal, but it also includes information about the people behind the portal. And we already heard the Assembly of Associates mentioned, the Governing Board mentioned, the country managers mentioned. And this is all information that is currently on the separate webpage for the Archives Portal Europe Foundation. But we have found that it might actually make more sense for users to have everything in one place, so they don't have to remember all different kinds of URLs, but they have one place to go to, archivesportaleurope.net, and there they can find everything that they need. And the nice thing, if I go into the Who We Are section in more detail, is that we do not only mention the people with their names and the countries that they are referring to, but we also have some nice pictures of people. So users that come here, or content providers that might want to see if their country is already represented in the country manager network, actually have a face to the name, which always is a nice feature. And I think all of us, specifically in the last 2 years, have kind of seen the value of this kind of personal interaction being even more important than it was before. And we have a few kind of bits and pieces of information for everyone, so kind of giving a little bit of information where the people are based, and what their kind of job is, and you can essentially kind of scroll through all the different interactions and go step by step and learn about the people behind the portal. And we don't only have that for the associates, so for the founding fathers and mothers of the Archives Portal Europe Foundation and the people who graciously still fund our activities. Well, we also have that for the governing board, so that are the colleagues who are doing all the general management that we have to do in Archives Portal Europe Foundation and are setting the strategies for where we are going at. And we also have it for the country managers. Country managers, for everyone who doesn't know, is a role that we already created during the APNet project. And they are essentially our representatives in the different countries that we work with. And they are our in-between between Archives Portal Europe and the national archival communities in the various countries, because we just said it's impossible for even a bigger international team to know everything in all the different countries in Europe, and whom to address and where to go and which events to look out for, and how kind of archival management systems work and all that stuff. So we have our country managers to actually do that for us and with us. And someone who wants to, for example, join new as a content provider can now also find hopefully their country manager on here. And just as an additional thank you, Manu Mani Steve, who has been really great in organizing all the meetings that we had during here the last few days. So again, it's nice to have a face to the name. Another thing that we are integrating into the Archisport Europe website is the information around tools and standards, as well as a few new additional resources that I already mentioned. So I mentioned the research tools. We have a list of useful links and a bibliography. We also have information about our bursaries and grants that we have relatively recently launched. So that's also why this page is currently still under construction. But it's something to look out for, and it's something that is not only of interest for potential content providers, but also for researchers and other people who want to work with archival material and do something with it. In terms of integration of other websites, we are integrating our wiki into the website. So that's where you find information about the standards that Archisport uses and how we are using them. And you will also find information about tools that we are developing and how to kind of actually work with them. Just as an example, I'm going to go into the standards page, so you get a general information about the standards and how they're used in Archisport Europe. And then you can go down here and learn more about one specific standard and how it is implemented in our context. As everyone knows who works with metadata and standards, this tends to be quite a complex matter. So these texts are a little bit longer than the other texts that we have. And we also have two subcategories here because in this case, we actually work with two different versions of the standard. And the last point that we are integrating into the website, again, following the everything in one place objective, is our blog. So we have just recently integrated everything in the blog, and you can find everything that is specific and new in Archisport Europe. So here we have two examples from the most recent digitization grants that APEP funds and the results from that. But you can also find information about upcoming events from all over Europe and provided by our content providers and country managers. And as a last point, as we are already kind of relatively far down the line in terms of the time, just going to have a look at the account section. So I can access everything via my account dashboard. And I'm just going to show the settings and preferences first, even though that's just the boring administration. But I wanted to show you a few things because we're also integrating the registered user account with our newsletter. So that is essentially kind of something that we will generate based on the blog post, but also potentially adding a few new things in there, and people can sign up easily to the newsletter via being registered to Archisport Europe. We are also planning to do kind of a specific newsletter for researchers, which would also include information about other researchers doing kind of similar things. So the collections that I will show in a minute is something that a user can also share. So if someone has published a collection about a specific topic and someone else might be using that topic as well, we can connect researchers and have them network a little bit. And there also is the possibility to ask for updates on my saved content to be sent. So if you have set something as a bookmark and, for example, that finding aid has been updated with new information or digital objects have been added, you would get a notification from Archisport Europe telling you that you might want to have a look at what is new. Going to the saved searches, bookmarks, and collections. So that is essentially kind of the fruit of the work that I've put into Archisport Europe and that I want to continue making use of. And I can see my collections in this in this case on the topic of Vienna. And I can see my bookmarks, which I don't have at the moment, and my collections. And I can also see what is in this collection. So this can be a combination of saved searches and bookmarks. So you can kind of create collections based on different aspects and different interactions with Archive in Europe. And the last point that also is part of the registered user account and already is part of that is the connection to our API. This is currently still in the current phase, but there will soon be a change with regards to what you can find in the API. Because Archive Europe is also introducing a more open license directive, and we are trying to get information with regards to the metadata and their licensing model into Archive Europe, so that we can make more use of everything that is licensed openly. And that will also include that we will make all that content available via the API. So the API will gain significance in terms of having more content available than it currently has. And with this, and with 10 minutes left of our time, I just want to open the floor for online and on-site and any questions that anyone might have.